All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Grounded Man Live. My name is Braedyn Stockfish. I'm the visionary leader here at The Grounded Man, and I'm joined today with a group of other grounded men. We've got Mitch here with us.
Hey, folks.
Vlad, our abundance cultivator.
Hello.
Dave. And myself, Braedyn. The Grounded Man is the community for responsible men who are ready to stop carrying the weight of the world all on their own. We are building a community that helps men to get off autopilot and start taking control of their lives. And we do that through self-leadership and the 6 pillars of self-leadership. We're finishing up our month of February on mental health and moving into March, which is all about emotional health, the 3rd pillar in our 6 pillars. So that's what we're going to be jamming on today, is talking about emotional health. And maybe we start with a piece. Every session at The Grounded Man, we start off with a process called checking in. Mm-hmm. And so maybe we do that here today. Just to give an example, for me, that's an opportunity because it's really about normalizing for men what they're experiencing, what we are experiencing in our body. I think it's really common for men to just have that answer, and we've touched on this before, of like, hey man, how are you? Like, I'm good.
I'm good.
Yeah, fine.
What the hell does that mean? Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, tell me actually, like, I actually want to know what's happening in your body, and it helps us all to relate. So I'll kick off. Let's do that and go around. So this is Braedyn checking in. Physically in my body, I felt the shortness of breath there, so just deepen my breath. I feel the tension of the hat on my head. I feel a little flutter in my chest. And then emotionally, I feel grateful. I feel supported. I feel, there's a lot of swirling upward energy in my body right now. Excitement, passion, and connection. I feel very connected, and that's Braedyn checking in.
Thanks, Braedyn. Yeah, this is Vlad checking in. Physically, I'm feeling comfortable in my body. I feel tightness in my pants. Emotionally, I'm feeling joyful, grateful, excited, and just a general sense of happiness. That's Vlad checking in.
Thanks, Vlad.
This is Dave checking in. Physically, I can feel like some tightness in my chest, kind of like a slight kind of twisting and like pressure. Also actually kind of feels like I actually literally have weight on it. That's the biggest physical sensation that I have in my body. The rest of it's pretty quiet. Emotionally feeling, some heaviness this morning. Noticing generally just kind of like a feeling like low to the ground. And that's where I feel like at this moment. So that's Dave checking in.
Thanks, Dave.
This is Mitchell checking in. Physically feeling a lot of warmth in my chest. Some anxiousness that's mostly translated through my leg shaking. I'm going to town. Emotionally, content, excited. And also there's a bit of retreat as well. That's there also. Yeah, that's Mitch checking in.
Thanks, Mitch.
Thanks, Mitch.
Yeah, there's a piece I like with our check-ins, and it's asking how do we feel emotionally, right? Because we all check in emotionally, and to me, like, that's one thing that I don't think I did before, like, the Grounded Man. The default answer was when everybody asked, it's exactly that. Like we talked in the beginning. How do you feel? Good. What does that even mean? I don't know, but apparently that's the way you should answer that question. But when you're actually taking time to sit with your emotions and reflect, like, what is actually present, I think just that bringing that awareness to emotion can be like really eye-opening. At least it is for me, to like understand like when I'm actually sad or angry or happy, or like now I'm not just good, I'm actually something, you know what I mean? And I can actually like understand self a little bit better. But anyway, that's the big piece for me.
Yeah, and I don't know about you guys, but for me, in relating in my relationships, especially with women, like sharing that, but I mean in our group too, it's like, oh, I feel closer to you when I understand what's actually going on. And even while we do check-ins, you know, while you're saying, oh, my leg's shaking, it kind of like brings presence to me, and like, oh, am I shaking or bringing anxiousness anywhere? Or, oh, my breath is short, like, let me check in with my breath. So it brings like a collective sense of presence. But also, yeah, I find in relationships, you know, a woman who hears a man be vulnerable and actually knows what's going on, like it's not just dumping emotions, but being like, oh yeah, you know what, my heart's a little closed right now, feeling a bit guarded. It's like, whoa, they're so not used to that, and it's so refreshing and creates a sense of safety, because yeah, you're creating vulnerability, which like automatically creates more connection.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, how are you supposed to hold space for other people's emotions if you can't hold space for your own?
Yeah.
So that's a big thing. Is like, okay, like how do I honor what's actually going on in my body, and actually how do I share that? Like, I think a really transformative experience for a lot of people early on when they're coming to the meetings is actually sharing some of that vulnerability. You know, like I opened up with, it's like, oh, I'd love to say that I'm like feeling amazing and excited. And like, that's not how I'm coming into the, you know, into the discussion. And I might shift there, but I need to honor where I'm at and share that and feel held in that. And that's a beautiful thing for men to feel, because then it also like disrupts in a beautiful way. Our natural inclination for many of us is to fix, right? Is to make the situation better. And there's always a lot of room for that. But first it's like, let's actually feel into like, what is going on? Yeah. What are the subtle layers? And like, I heard it in some of your shares, and it's really common, is that like, if you actually take a little bit of time and slow down, and it's like, oh yeah, there is some heaviness. And then, or, you know, sometimes it's like, oh, there's anger. And then if you really give space to that, and then you're like, oh wow, there's some real sadness underneath that. You get to actually see that emotions are layered on top of each other. And that if you're too quick to move to fix, then you're actually missing a lot of the important information, a lot of the vulnerability, and a lot of the essence that needs to be seen and felt and expressed first.
And talking about it really helps to bring it to the surface. It's easy to just be in it, and people can tell it's in your demeanor. And when you're able to name it, bring it up, it does. We were talking about safety. It does create that feeling of safety for other people, because like, oh, at least this person's aware of what's going on. They're not just going through the motions and being disconnected from it.
Agreed.
And I think it helps me to realize like, oh yeah, I'm not just this like black and white thing where, okay, I'm angry now and next I'm going to be joyful. It's like, whoa, I can actually hold like a multiplicity of things all at once. And that like, oh yeah, maybe I feel grounded and connected and inspired because of what's been happening here. But like, oh yeah, there's also like a bit of heaviness and anxiety because I'm also navigating like other situations that aren't maybe as alive right now. But as humans, like, yeah, we're so complex and we have so much going on in our world. And I think that's a piece that I'd love to start to talk to, because numbing is so common in men, right? And numbing, something that I've been like really seeing as I reflect on my own life right now, is like, oh yeah, numbing is, and I forget where I heard this, but it just like hit so well, that it's a symptom of overwhelm. So it's like, actually, like the reason you're numbing is because I have so much emotion in my body. Men have so much emotion in their body, and they weren't taught what to do with it. They weren't taught how to hold it, how to move it, how to express it. So it has nowhere to go. And so the next best thing is like, okay, I have to like numb it and push it down, because I don't know what to do with this anymore. So it's like, okay, now I'm scrolling on my phone, watching porn, masturbating, taking drugs, drinking, whatever, eating sugar. Like there's so many ways that we numb, and all of us do
hitting
it.
The gym.
Yeah, hitting the gym, working, dude. Working is so big for guys as a distraction, right? And
Outrage.
yeah.
It's super easy to get caught in outrage.
Yeah, I find that like, and the thing is because, and this is why like I find that the check-ins and seeing the like various emotions that people have in their check-ins, like that's probably one of my favorite parts, is like when we go to our night and one night, you know, they're feeling this emotion, the next time they're feeling this. And it's like, you can actually see the human element of the man that's sitting there. It's not just a default, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. Like that doesn't tell us anything, right? But when you're actually able to like go in and assess and like look, you're able to see a side of like, oh, like this is actually what I'm dealing with. And I think that once you bring awareness to like those emotions, then you can actually start to take action on them, right? And it's so easy for us, like if we're not taking time to spend like time with self, really, it's so much easier to be like, okay, well, I don't know what that is, I don't want to deal with that, so I'm just going to go ahead and numb myself and give myself these like short little fixes and short little highs, but it doesn't ever address what actually needs to come up, you know, and by pushing it down further, you're only making it worse, right? So it's like, yes, like be okay to be in that, and it will help, you know, reduce some of the numbing that you may be looking for the out.
Yeah. When you are able to bring it up and say it allows room for other things to come into. Like I can easily, and have been, you know, grumpy yet content at the exact same time. Two emotions that, you know, might look like they're opposites, but they're really not. You know what I mean? And also, you know, contentment is not necessarily joy, but there's that equanimity with, yeah, I'm content and I'm grumpy or I'm angry at the same time. And being able to say that, I've noticed that it also opens up even more contentment when I'm able to, you know,
it's like self-acceptance.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, oh, I'm grumpy, I'm all this, and the fact that I'm able to share it brings a sense of relief and doesn't push those away. It just creates more space for them to be held.
Yeah, it creates acknowledgement for who you are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to me, this is like great hearing and talking. And it's like, okay, we're four men who have been practicing this, because it is a practice for, you know, a varying degree of like years at this point. And so we have like a solid base of emotional intelligence. But when I look back, when I was first starting this journey, like 8-9 years ago, there was so much overwhelm in first turning inward. It's like, I didn't even, and I share this with guys, like when you first start looking inward, to me, it feels like everything kind of has to fall apart, because it feels like I was holding up my like inner world with this house of like sticks that were just like taped together in all these weird places. And so at first it was like, oh, it's scary to look at. Then I have to look at it, and like, in that moment, it kind of all comes down. I mean, that can be a slow process over years, but that's the feeling of like, whoa, I've never looked at this. So it's unfamiliar and scary. And then it's become like a process of learning how to actually, like, to what you said, right? How to hold myself, how to contain myself. And now I see I can do that with others, which is a skillful thing to learn, because it's like, yeah, our partner, you know, when we talk about men and being providers and protectors, part of that protection and provision is like emotional space and emotional readiness and welcoming in whatever the experience is. And in order to welcome something uncomfortable outside, like, yeah, we have to look at that inside. And so I just wonder, like, I saw you guys shaking heads, but like, was it a similar like process, or how does it feel like when you think back to that first times where you started looking at your emotions? Is it like, yeah, what was there for you for some of the guys that maybe are just getting into this as well?
I mean, I think one of the lies is that like men are not very emotional. So I think that's one of the lies that gets perpetuated and can create like a lot of sense of feeling of isolation, where it's like, oh wow, like I've got all of this rich internal experience. It's a lot to fucking handle. And like, I don't have any healthy outlets with other men to talk about this. Like, I can relate to women through that lens. At least I can speak from my experience. That was like, there was like a lot of comfort. It's like, oh wow, I actually feel very comfortable in spaces where it's very like woman oriented and very feminine, because there's a lot of that spaciousness for me to bring that element. Yeah, because I relate as like higher on the emotional spectrum. But then the other thing too is like, I actually don't even think that that's true. I think it's much more the norm, because it's, again, that conditioning, the lie that we've been told is that men aren't very emotional. We express emotions in different ways than women. And, you know, the way that we experience it, I can't speak to what it's like for a woman to go through that. I imagine it's a little bit different. But we absolutely have these rich environments. And so part of that was just like deconditioning. And actually it's like beautiful to get to see, oh, wow. With the check-ins, it's like, oh yeah, I can relate to that emotion, and I can relate to that and that and that and that. And that, you know, that has all moved through me during the week. And for me, at least on the emotional side of things, yeah, there's like both the comfort internally, but I think the thing that is the muscle that I've practiced the most over time is actually opening that up. And there's a way in which it's like both being received, which is beautiful, but it's like, how can I open up and share this in a way where I actually like am holding myself? Yeah. You know, where there's this way where it's like, oh yeah, there's maybe an expectation of like, I don't really want someone to be careless with my emotions. But when you can get to that place where it's like, oh, I actually can, like, that's not exactly the reflection that I wanted to get. Again, sometimes with guys, they'll be like quick to fix. And it's like, yeah, I hear you. Thanks, man. And I just need to be in the mud right now for a minute. But for me, it was really around the expression piece. And a lot of me holding that in was this idea of, it's like, oh, if I start to express my strong emotions, then that's going to lead to isolation and disconnection.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that.
I mean, I've experienced that too. And telling somebody close to me, this is still quite a while ago, but I've always been, you know, a fairly emotional person. And, just sharing, not necessarily my emotions, but the stories, there were deep things, and getting the response, that's a conversation you need to have with yourself. I'm like, I mean, I am having it with myself. I'm still here, still participating, but I'm wanting to share as well and be seen, you know, as opposed to completely shut down and be like, that's a conversation you need to have with yourself. Okay, thanks. That was not helpful at all.
Yeah. I think for me, like, especially if I go back to the beginning, and like for me, vulnerability was a big thing over the last couple of years. And like my connection to emotions, I had a lot of like pushing it down. And so like coming into a space where I saw other men leaning into their emotions was huge to me. And like, I'm looking at you, Mitchell, because like you were one of like the biggest inspirations for me in the beginning, because like I watched you and you'd be like, yeah, I'm feeling this. And I'm sitting there like, oh yeah, like actually so am I. But like, because I've suppressed it so much, I just never, like I didn't even know how to experience that emotion properly, you know, if that makes sense. And I just became like so disconnected from self that like I was almost confused how to like experience some of these emotions. So seeing other men open up like that taught me to be like, I can connect with that, you know, and then I have that. And then slowly it allows you to start having those conversations with self, because you create an awareness around those specific emotions. So like, yeah, that for me was like a big foundational piece, was being in an environment where like, this is actually okay. And like, it really, I don't know, it's kind of like, I kind of wish it for like all the men out there to like, yes, you can create these spaces with like your partners and stuff, but like, however you choose to do it, like try to create a space where like you can be okay sharing emotion and expressing that emotion and sitting with that emotion and whatever that looks like for you. But like, there's so much power in doing that.
Yeah. Someone I was with recently kind of gave a challenge to the guys in the room of just like, be the one to go and do that, because we have a lot, you know, we're blessed that we create this space of brotherhood, and we have a men's group, and there are tons of men's groups around, so it's like that's an option always. But sometimes for guys that feels like a big stretch, and it's like, oh, but you do see your buddies for board games or playing sports or going out to the bar or whatever, and it's like, try that vulnerability piece to like bring something up that's like a little deeper, a little more under the surface, and see what happens. And like 9 times out of 10, they're going to respond in a way that's like, oh man, me too, you know, or like, oh my, I totally get what you're saying. And they're probably going to open up even more. Right. And like, that's which is why I love how we structure the pillars, because it's like we go from emotional to relational. And it's like, man, the vulnerability, I think, is a key ingredient in developing relationships. Again, it creates safety, it creates understanding, it creates common bonding of like just what you explained of, oh yeah, wow, when you show me how to like express my emotion, it can help me to like integrate that into my own experience and how to do that. And also it brings you deeper into my world of, hey, yeah, you get a little more understanding of what I'm navigating and what I'm carrying, and that makes me feel, you know, more compassionate and more empathetic towards you. And now we're building bonds together and deepening our relationships, not just with each other, but with ourselves, as we all just mentioned. And yeah, with the people in our lives, like our families and our partners and these people that we care about. It's like they also want to feel and see our hearts and have that vulnerability. So it's just like, yeah, I love the vulnerability piece and how important that is.
Well, if I can, just to that, like, just ask yourself who your strongest connections to the people in your life are, and think about it. Like, is it the people that you just have a surface connection where the default answer is I'm good, or is it the people that you are more emotionally vulnerable with, right? The answer is going to be very clear, and it's like, that's how you build it, you know?
Yeah. You're going to want to spend more time with people where you can actually be all of you. And just to add on to that piece around the vulnerability, it's like, it's so common for men, especially, I think, to present all of like, what are my accomplishments? What am I proud of? What are the things where I'm competent? You know, like a lot of that like drive and like pushing through. So much of the messaging that we have, you know, that's geared towards men is like achievement focused and like get out there. And yeah, that's beautiful. But it creates a distorted image of reality where we start to suppress and repress all of the parts that don't feel competent, that, you know, don't feel like they have their shit together, that have shame, that have guilt, that feel like they fucked up. And yeah, it's so important to remember that it's like, oh yeah, all of these people, including like whoever it is that you look up to, you know, whether I don't know if it's, you know, David Goggins or, you know, some of the more hardcore people, it's like, I guarantee you they got emotions too. Some of them might be running away from it as well, but it's just important to remember the humanity. Yeah,
agreed.
Yeah, and that makes me think of, just like you mentioned, a couple pieces in the humanity, but a powerful piece that I remember learning is that like scale of emotions. And we've talked about this and shared it with the group. But going from like, oh yeah, there's a whole range of emotions. And sometimes I've seen the wheel of emotions too, where it can be super helpful. Like on the outside, like I feel sad, and then getting in more precise on like, what is that actually? But the scale piece is like, you know, from the bottom, one of the lower or most dense vibrational emotions that a human can experience is shame. And then like the top of that scale is like enlightenment or ecstasy.
Exactly.
And so it's like everything fits somewhere in between that scale of like very high vibrational ecstasy, like joy, and then like, whoa, like shame, let me hide and be on my own. And our job is to like become fluent in that whole scale, and like to work towards, like alchemizing things that are down in that lower vibration and bringing them up into that space of acceptance, joy, passion, love, ecstasy, welcoming that. Not that we have to live there all the time, but to be able to bring that up. And for me in my journey, like shame was, you know, as a addict and substance abuse, you know, disorder, it's like, oh, again, I don't like that language. I haven't figured it out, but someone who really, struggled with substance abuse, it's like, there was so much shame in me and the way that I related. We talked about this last night, but just like hiding things from my partner, from my family, from myself, and lying and stealing and all of these things that I knew were against my values, I knew were wrong, but I was doing anyway, and then hiding. And it's like all this shame that I like built up in a closet full of shame and stickiness behind me, that like now I'm a bad person. You know, I haven't just done a few bad things, but now I'm a bad person. And it's like, oh man, that's such a sad story for someone to carry, because now that I've like unpacked that, I have so much more compassion and understanding for the human experience. And it's like, man, like I'm so happy to like welcome those pieces, those sticky pieces of people. But yeah, kind of curious to hear from you guys as well of like, what's your experience? I mean, for me, shame, the biggest thing, which I think we all would agree with, is like bringing that out into the light. Like that right away transforms something that's like dense and hidden into like acceptance so quickly, where someone sees it, feels it, and is like, whoa, yeah, that's big. And like, it's okay. You know, you can still be here. I still love you, and like, let's keep talking about it. And it's like, okay, we just moved from super dense emotion to like relief, and now there's some acceptance and allowance, and then we can start to like bring it up where now, you know, something that I once wanted to hide, now I can talk about openly, and I'm actually grateful for it. So now I have the emotion of gratitude instead of shame, because wow, look at all the things that I got out of my life from this gift, even though it was difficult and challenging. And so it's like, yeah, what are some of those pieces for you guys that have stuck out on your journey?
Well, I do want to point out or talk about what you were saying with the things that you do that bring up shame. It's these little things that you're doing that are hidden, and you don't want to bring them out. And you're saying you're feeling shameful about the fact that you did them. And those actions that you're doing, that behavior is really you trying to fulfill a need. And the thing is, you don't feel safe enough to actually go and get that need met. You don't feel safe enough opening up and asking, you know, to get this need met. It's like, oh, I have a need, and this is my strategy. Can I ask somebody, you know, hey, can I borrow something? And you're feeling scared to ask. So instead of borrowing, you wait till they're gone, and you go and, you know, you take it or you use it without their permission. You kind of just do it kind of underneath the surface. So you don't have to be in relationship. Right there. It's a really easy way to go and hide. And when you find that, hey, I feel safe around people, you can start opening up and you say, and be vulnerable. Like, oh, okay, well, these are actually my needs. And can I do it without trying to hide it and be shameful about it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a part with, and I think this is the beauty of being human, because the range of emotions is so wide. Like you can be all over the place when it comes to like your emotions. But what I find, especially as you dive in and you understand your emotions a little bit more, at least for me, like, yes, you can be down in shame, and yes, you can be all the way up in like love and enlightenment. But like, there's something about the beauty of being able to like move up and down that and experience those different emotions. And you will, like, every day, you're probably going to go on some type of an emotional roller coaster and some type of emotional adventure. And I find that there is, like, that's the beauty of being human. And like even for myself, like I had a lot of like pride and jealousy. And then I just found that like the more I like accepted those emotions, and it's funny because acceptance is one that keeps coming up more for me. Like the more I can move, and I think it's important to remember, like with emotions too, like you kind of have, depending on how you interact with self, you kind of have like a default like range of where you're operating with your emotions.
For sure.
And so what's also important to recognize there, and like some people operate higher, other people's operate lower. And like sometimes people will come in and like, yes, because I operate high, I just expect everybody else to operate high. And it's like, No. Like you actually have to come down emotionally to a frequency range where the person that you're interacting with can actually resonate with you, right? And I think that's the beauty of, you know, understanding that there's an up and down, and it's okay to be here and move to here. That flavor, that uniqueness, that like diversity is the key to allow us to like connect and resonate with others more.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the default mode that many of us, before we start doing inner work and shadow work and working on ourselves, is informed through childhood experiences and our conditioning, right? Like how, like I can relate to a lot of like the golden child stuff where it's like, you know, I'm the eldest sibling. And so like, you know, I was the teacher's pet and like I was getting A's. And so like there's a lot of this achievement driven, but it's like that's where it's like the reflex for, and many of us have it, but like it's I'm good or it's okay. It's like so strong in me. Even last night, you know, I do this stuff all the time. And then as I'm saying hello, giving hugs to the men, people are like, oh, how are you doing? Oh, I'm good. And then I take a moment and I'm like, sorry, actually, that was my reflex speaking. Today I'm feeling a bit contracted. And then giving the honest answer. And so, yeah, I mean, it's nothing wrong, but it's becoming interested in like, oh, why do I have this default mode? Because there are also going to be people that relate through anger. And how much of that is because parental dynamics really informed, or it's like the way that I feel that I can, you know, get my message across and maybe like make it in the workplace is driven from me being like a bit of a dick and an asshole, you know, or my version was being like overly nice, you know? So for me, it's actually bringing out more of like my sandpaper and my grit and like speaking up for myself. And every man's, like emotional default mode and range is going to be different depending on like the childhood that they had and their experiences growing up. And so starting to decondition that.
But if you want a fun challenge, because I like what you said, like my default is the good, and it's so true. Like I'm there as well. But like one fun challenge that we have in our household is I'll ask like, how was your day? But you cannot answer with good. And so right away it's like, you know what I mean? The brain's like, what? But then it allows you to relate just a little bit more with your experience, right? So anyways, it's a fun one anyone can try, right? Just take out good and then answer.
And something we with one of the guys in the group, Barat, because same thing. It's like whenever we connect, give each other a hug. Hey man, how's it going? Oh, good. It's like, okay. So it was like, oh, how can we break that pattern so that we don't have to like catch that and go in? It's like, oh, let's change the question instead of saying how are you. So we were like, okay, what can we ask? And it was like ended up being like, how are your balls hanging? You know, as like a metaphor of like, hey man, how are your balls hanging? And it's like, whoa, that right away disrupts my brain. I'm like, what kind of question is this? And then I smile because I'm like, oh, you're just asking me how I am, but like let me actually check in. And it's like, oh, right now they're like they're loose, they're hanging, they're chilling, they're feeling like solid, or maybe they're uptight and a little tense and tender right now. And it's like, okay, just that, you know, not actually how my balls are hanging. It's just like that's another opportunity that we can get creative with people in our lives and be like, hey man, I'm sick of doing it this way. Let's create a pattern interrupt.
That's another part of conditioning is the fact that at least in English in this part of the world that we say, hi, how are you? How's it going? We have this thing about, hey, how's it going? But most of the time people aren't really wondering how's it going. It's just, it's part of the greeting. And so no wonder then that after that, our response to how are you? Good. Because we're conditioned in that way. We're conditioned to respond to a greeting, as opposed to a real request or a real a request that's caring. And how are you doing?
And to be honest, most times I don't. If we're just like running into each other, like I'm not looking for you to give me a check-in all the time, right?
So you know, it's also we can change the way we say hello, and we don't have to use
how are you
formulas. You know, hi, how are you? Are you going to really ask me how I am, or just say hi? Hi is enough of a greeting. Good to see you. And different ways to do that. I remember speaking to my cousin's in-laws, and they're French, and they're like, "Oh, that's not normal for them to say how are you. We don't say that. We just say hello, bonjour, not bonjour, comment ça va." Just hello. And that's the greeting.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good way to do it. You don't have to go into the fakeness and condition ourselves to respond good or fine when you're asked, how are you?
And there's a fun tension in there too of just like, hello. Hi. And it's like, okay, what do we do now? Oh, it's kind of revealing that like I actually don't know how to relate to another human being beyond, hey, what's up? How you doing? Good. Yeah, good. Great. Gonna walk. Move on.
I think that like that just sparked like one of the big pieces for me, like on my emotional intelligence was getting way more comfortable with discomfort, especially socially, and like how much of my social experience and what I'm saying is driven from me trying to like keep you in an okay state. You know, it's really, it can be really revealing to be like, oh, wow. And that's where I think a lot of the reflex of like, how are you good is be like, please be okay. I don't want to have an emotional conversation. I'm already overwhelmed with my own experience and I can't take on your own things. And so it's like actually getting like building that muscle that's like, oh, wow, I'm way more comfortable with my own discomfort. And also I can, you know, be with Mitchell, I can be with Braedyn, I can be with Vlad, and they can be having a really difficult experience. And I'm not taking that on.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not taking responsibility for your experience. I'm just here with you. I'm relating.
Yeah. I had a buddy I was talking to a little while ago. He was calling me on a drive home from Western Canada and like had a big, pretty emotional experience while he was out there, like coming back from a place that he was living and blah, 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 all this details that aren't mine, but it was emotional and it was dense. And so he called and he's like sharing it. We're on the phone for like half an hour. And, you know, at the end, he's like, wow, man, I just like feel so good that you're able to like give me this space. And he shared that like he had called one of his other buddies first. And he's like, the conversation was like 5 minutes. I told him some of this stuff and he was like, oh yeah, like should probably talk to your girlfriend about that stuff. Like, anyway, man, good talking. Like, we'll catch you later. Have a good one. It's just like, oh, overwhelmed. Yeah. I have no idea how to handle my own experience. So like, what am I supposed to say to you in this situation? I'm just going to pull the plug and get out of here. And it's like, oh man, yeah, I get it. I understand it. And that's part of like the piece that, you know, we've been talking about lately is like, oh shit, man, I'm sorry. Like, are you still at a place where you don't even know how to hold your own emotions, that you can't hold your friend in his emotions? Like you should probably learn how to do that and catch up. Like fuck learning how to, you know, use AI and catch up with technology. Like that's going to be there. But like, if you haven't learned the basics of how to relate to your body and your mind and your emotions and other people in that way, then like, yeah, it's time to catch up, you know?
Yeah. Yeah,
and it's normal that we would be in that state too, because we're not taught this growing up. We live in a society that they don't want that, and people have brought these to schools. And hey, let's bring nonviolent communication or ways to be able to express ourselves and get in touch with our emotional health. And they don't want to. They say no. We don't want that. Why? I mean, yeah, that's another conversation.
We also don't have a lot of value built around emotions in general.
Yeah.
And there's like, I think a lot of misunderstanding of the tie-in between like our emotional health and all of the other areas of our life. Right. So I know that in this month, or the past month, I should say, which was mental health, like we talked about the relationship between really like the mental body and the emotional body, and that the emotional body is really giving us a lot of feedback on like, what are the subconscious beliefs? What are the things that I believe about the world, identity statements? Your emotional realm is telling you so much good information, and anyone else that has an emotional experience is telling us about how they are perceiving and experiencing reality and their life. And so giving that a lot of space, because I think it's also another thing that's kind of normalized, that with emotions, we're like, oh, you're just being emotional. Like that's not tied to reality. And while someone may not be experiencing like an objective reality, it's telling us totally about the meaning that they're making of the world. And so it's like to me, I look at emotions as they never lie. They're always telling us about what's going on behind the scenes. So it's just about listening to them, being like, oh, wow, okay, for you to feel so dysregulated right now in this conversation where I'm totally fine. It's like, what does that tell me about? Like, get curious about the emotions. Get curious about like, this is valuable information. Like, let's find out, you know?
The emotion will be true, like you say.
Yeah.
It's always true. It's reflecting what's actually going on inside our systems. But the thoughts and beliefs that those emotions are based on, that might be the story. That might be where we find something that's not true.
Not true, yeah.
Yeah.
And I like what you had touched on earlier, which I think was I know it was a great piece for me in my journey, is learning that, like, okay, when I'm feeling these emotions that we might call good, that are higher vibrational, things that we enjoy experiencing, that it's like, oh, that's a sign that my needs are being met. And when I'm feeling a little bit of density or friction or constriction, then that's a sign that maybe some of my needs are not being met. And just having that as like, and it made me think of like whiskers on a cat, what you were talking about, that it's like, this is how we perceive our environment, is through our emotional body, which is like an energetic aura. And so when I'm feeling in my environment, like, oh, something is telling me that I should be like fearful right now, or something's like bringing up some anger, it's like, okay, what's the need that's not being met right now? And let's see if we can identify that. And then it's like, can we ask for what we want in order to get that need met, so that we can come back to a state of contentment or acceptance, right? And being able to modulate that, and also not getting attached to like always being in that state of having all of our needs met. That it's like, yeah, part of the beauty and the acceptance of the human experience is like, it's going to be there. And so, yeah, dancing with discomfort, dancing with death, allowing these like denser parts of the experience to be something that, we don't want to push away all the time. It's like, actually, there's times where I want to invite you into my house and like welcome you to sit down at the table with me and say like, hey, please tell me what's going on. Like, what are the needs that are not being met here, and how can I support you? Right? That's an internal thing that I can say to myself, and it's fucking powerful.
And it creates this like internal robustness. But it also makes you a safe man. It makes you a safe person to relate to. It's like, hey, I'm a yes to the whole spectrum of emotions and human experience, because I know that in myself. And so like, I'm a yes to that. So like, it makes you it makes your relationships better. It makes all areas of your life better. I look at it like, my emotions is just like a superpower, right? Like, it's like, ooh, wow, like, how do I increase that sensitivity? I love that analogy of the whiskers, right? It's like, ooh, it's like, it's giving me so much good information. And at least as a guy, like, I love good data, it's such good data, So once you really start getting into it, it's like, like you can really learn to enjoy it. And at least for myself, like, it's not, I also have sometimes with the dense emotions, and it's like, ooh, it's like, this feels heavy. But when you really learn to dance with these things, you can really develop a taste for it as well. It's like, I actually like can feel like the beauty of like really like going into grief. Even with good shame work, when I can create the right container for that and get right into it, it's just like, there's so much energy there, so much life force that's locked in those dents. I don't even know if this is true. I'd love to know, spiritual teacher, something like that. But to me, I feel like the dance is really like all of that energy that just actually collapsed into something that's even way more concentrated. So it looks like it's super heavy, but there's so much life force just locked in that heaviness, right? That shame, that guilt, that depression, that sadness, whatever it is.
Yeah. There's, what I like about our chat here today?
What?
Like, it's got me thinking, because we have our 6 pillars, and like with physical pillar, like, sure, you can go to the gym and you will see physical changes. With the financial stuff, right? You can make changes and make a plan and you'll see an impact, right? And same thing with relationships and have conversations. But emotions, like, we've talked about so many different tools that you can use to actually hone in on the thing that, like, how do you ping, an emotion? Like, it's not like you can like point at something necessarily, but you can feel it. And you can connect with it, and what you're experiencing. And like with some of the stuff we talked about, like, it's just, that is your connection, and that is the sharpening of the emotional part.
Exactly. And the most important part of it is to feel it. It's useful to be able to name it and share it with somebody else. That adds other things to it, but it's really about feeling it. And if you're able to really feel it fully, that's the key. And also to the needs. It can also bring a lot of creativity, or open a door to creativity. To figure out different strategies to fill your need. Right. So that's that can go on another topic too. But finding strategies that, you can ask somebody, hey, I have this need and I have this desire, this want to fill it in this way. And if that's not available, how can I be creative enough to come up with a different way to do it? Because there's always different ways. And, meeting a need never depends on a particular person or a particular something to happen.
Yeah. There's a couple pieces there, but just what you said, I think a metric that I see that just came up of like, how can you see the progress in like emotional intelligence? It's like confidence. There's other ways of developing confidence, but like the robustness, I like that word that you said too. It's like, oh man, when I've like gone in and dug deep into myself and I've looked at like the messiness and the stickiness, and it's like, even now, the things that are happening in the world where like men are just, I think there's also a portraying of that, but there's some like shitty things happening in the world that we're seeing from men right now. And it's like, I'm so comfortable and confident looking at and talking about these things because I've done that like reflection and digging in myself. And so there's that feeling of like, man, I can show up, and it takes a lot to put me in a situation where you're going to make me feel like, oh shoot, you've got me on my heels here. Like I'm going to do that to myself before like most of the external world is going to. And so that's something that I think comes, and that's the important piece. Like, we do the 6 pillars of self-leadership, and that's why, is because like it's an arena for training ourselves in all of those areas that it's like, we need to flex those muscles physically, mentally, emotionally, relationally, financially, spiritually. All of those things need tending to and practice and work. And it's a lot when you get too lost in it, but it's actually not that much when we're playing with it in the way that we do in this space, that it's like, we're all carrying this together. We're all working on it. And there's an excitement because like I watch you grow, or I watch you grow, or I watch you, and I'm like, okay, I got to bring a little more here. I want to do a little more. And we laugh about it and we bring joy in, which is just like, the more play we can bring into these spaces and make it like dancing with death. Like, it's like, that feels like the ticket.
Yeah, good shot.
Thanks everyone. Any final thoughts? We're kind of at that point, I think.
I think for me, just one parting thought is, we talked about vulnerability at the beginning, and I don't think we touched on it, but I have never felt at my strongest than when I am like vulnerable. Right. So it's like when I actually get to like relax that and like stop all of the pretenses and just like be exactly as I am, that's when I feel actually like the strongest. And for me, at least, there's often a fear piece right before that. Even for me, who's flexed that muscle a lot, there's often like, here's another level of shame or another level of guilt, and like some tenseness. And then on the other side of that being vulnerable, about opening up and expressing, it's just like, oh wow, I feel fucking strong.
Yeah, I think for me, in closing, it's we talked about it earlier, but asking somebody, how are you? I would invite that if you do ask, then be in a position where you're ready to receive as well. Otherwise, it's best to not ask.
Learn a new skill.
Exactly.
I have nothing else to add. I'm complete.
Nice. I feel like tying in like kind of what you said, but just everything, like what I'm hearing, what I feel inside, and what I'm hearing as we create this collective conversation around maybe what it means to be a man in the world today, is that like we value vulnerability, and that like actually learning how to share and be with your emotions is something that requires courage and strength and discipline and all of these things that men seem to love and want to like represent. Like, I'm strong and courageous and disciplined. Great. Then show me your heart, because that's the most courageous thing you can do right now. And more of us need to be doing that. And I think as a man in the world today, that's a prerequisite for sitting at the table of like, how are we shaping our future for the next generation?
100%. Well said.
Awesome. Thanks so much for tuning in, everyone. It's great to have you here. Great to be with all you guys. And we'll talk soon.
Take care.